Hey everybody, it's Dean Faulkner from South Charlotte Pres again. As we as a church start coming together to worship again the summer of 2020, many people are asking, how in the world are we going to start worshiping together with the COVID thing hanging around? How are we going to do this in a way that honors one another, loves well, and actually pays attention to the liberty of people and their choices around what to do? Well, let's talk a little bit about that for a second. We're going to give recommendations. We have a team of folks from South Charlotte who've actually done some hard work, discussed, even debated with each other how to do this in a proper way, and they've come up with some excellent recommendations as a team on how we might handle this. So here's the first thing we tell you about how we're going to do church together, and that would be simply this: remembering what we're learning from the CDC, from our government, from even medical experts. We're going to practice social distancing, and we're going to do it several different ways. The first would be this: as a rule of thumb, we Christians want to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Meaning, if we're struggling with sickness, have any question, have been exposed to COVID virus in some way in the prior days or weeks, we're going to stay home, and we recommend you do that. In as much as you are feeling bad, we don't want to share it with other people. So we encourage you in that sense. But many of you are like, I'm doing great. It's been a good time. We haven't gotten sick, haven't been around people who haven't been sick. So what do we do next? We'll say, come on, worship the Lord with gladness as you come. Now, what would that look like if you were to show up? Well, the first thing we coach you on is as you walk in together at South Charlotte Pres in our new facility, wave to one another. Don't greet each other with a heavenly kiss, even though we'll get back around to that in due time. Wave at each other and keep a reasonable distance from each other as families, even as we try to talk to each other. Now, you're probably thinking, well, what happens next? Well, let's make our way in and we'll tell you more. Now you may be wondering, okay, what do we do when we get inside the new facility for South Charlotte Pres? Well, we're going to keep social distancing, and here's how we're going to do it. First, we're going to have hand sanitizer ready, FDA approved, and we're also going to have masks available if you don't have one. We are strongly recommending that everyone wear a mask. Next up, we'll make our way, after you take care of that, we're going to gather together in there as a group. We're going to social distance inside, but as we make our way out, we're going to recommend that everybody pause on greeting each other, hanging out inside, and instead make their way outside, weather permitting, and hang out there. That's what we're recommending so everybody can get their social distancing. Now let's go inside. Next up is worship. Now you can see as we've got chairs laid out here in the facility that there is 6 feet between each row. So we're honoring the 6-foot length. Now you're probably wondering at this point, where exactly do we sit in the rows and how do we do this? Because look how big the rows are. Well, here's what we're recommending: that families or even singles sit at the ends of each row, that you fill them up, and yet you keep 3 chairs between you, which is roughly 6 feet. That's what we're recommending, so there's enough space and social distancing to worship. So that's our plan at this point. Now, let's think about some other things on how we can practice social distancing and love each other well in this process of reinstating worship. Okay, everybody, some of you are going to think, hey, I want to bring my kids to worship this week. What are we going to do about that? Well, let me tell you how we're going to handle the kids. We're going to encourage kids to sit with their families all during worship. In fact, our worship services are going to be shorter. They're only going to be about an hour. And we're going to have clipboards with little doodly things available for the kids to enjoy while they're engaged in worship. And so that's what we're going to do for kids while they're here, and we hope that will work for you. Now, we're not going to do that indefinitely, but it's going to be a little while before we reinstate children's ministry, although we'll have a cry room available for any parents who need to drop out or to step out with their kids. Now, some of you may be wondering, okay, I got my kids in, I got my family in, what are we going to do next? And the next thing would be, how do you keep up with worship? Where we're going to use our TV screens as keeping our order of worship for us. We will not have paper orders of worship like we've had in the past, just again to honor the social distancing rules and passing out things by hand. But in due time, we'll get back to handing things out when it's appropriate and giving you information. What you can do if you're interested in keeping up with order of worship is you can download something that we'll have available with the e-letter each week. So let's go to the next place and figure out how to do that too. Now, some of you who've been in church for a while, even our church, are thinking, okay, now that we're cranking up, how are we going to do the sacraments like the Lord's Supper, even baptism? Well, we're going to practice those, but we're going to practice those with social distancing. There will be, the Lord's Supper will come in little cups with the wafer already on top that will peel back, that will come forward and get at a table. And then we will go back to our seat and we'll partake together as a way to both honor each other's space and honor the Lord at the same time. So that's what we're going to do in the near future. Now, somebody at this point I say, okay, I already got how we're going to do the Lord's Supper together. Now, how do I give in the midst of this? Well, we're going to have a box at the back of the sanctuary, our little worship space, where you, if you want to, can put your tithe or your offering into that place whenever you make your way out of the service or even into the service. Of course, you can give the other ways you've probably been giving in the meantime by online or texting 84321 or even snail mail to our P.O. box here in Ballantyne. This is a few of the things that we'll be doing together as a church. But one last thing I would tell you about worship together, and it's this. Some of you, as we're talking about social distancing, are feeling the angst about whether you should come or not. And this is what I would tell you. If for any reason in your conscience before the Lord as you pray, you're not ready to come, that's okay. We want you to worship with us, and so what we're going to do is we're going to have taped services that we'll put online sometime after we worship on Sunday, if you just be patient with us. Or you can pray that the Lord would provide so that we would be able to do a little live streaming. We're exploring both options right now, but either or, we'll provide worship for you because we want you to be a part of our body. You are a part of our body. So it's okay to wait if you're not ready yet. And for those who are ready, come engaged, trying to honor the social distancing rules we came up with. And I think in due time, we'll be back together, celebrating that God has gotten us through an unusual time in history, an unusual time in our little church plant's history, but a time where He's sovereign and He's loving us even when we don't realize it. Let's worship the Lord in the spirit of holiness. Thanks for listening.